Ukraine finds itself at the center of a geopolitical storm, a flurry of activity, with each event adding a new layer to the intricate tapestry of this conflict. Russia's grand military parade, a show of force that resonated, a gracious display of military might, reshaping the dynamics of the conflict. In a surprising twist, Russia agreed to withdraw, escalating tensions. This decision marked a significant shift in Russia's strategy, offering a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak landscape. However, the relative calm to stern nuclear deterrent warning amplified the urgency of the implications of this conflict. Amid the turmoil, Ukraine appointed a move indicative of alliances. Yet, in a parallel development, the Ukrainian leadership, adding to the situation further. This assault on a critical infrastructure's retaliatory air attack to diplomats. Each event adds a new dimension to this complex conflict. Amidst the chaos, the new ambassador and its potential for far. As the world watches with bated breath, the Ukraine war of international politics.
Правильно говорю, не понимаешь, справа, слева, ты пизда, все, нахуй. Что ты не... Ну ты нахуй.
Давай на очередь. Давай на Целый? Да. Все целые? Фу, блядь.
Stance suggests economic as the world continues to navigate the is certain. Nothing
Russia repeats its mistakes from start of Ukraine war. Ukraine has lauded its recent success in taking out a slew of Russian tanks and armored vehicles near the embattled former Kyiv said paratroopers from country's 25th Airborne Brigade had stopped a massive Russian Tonenk, destroying 4 tanks and 2 infantry fighting vehicles directly west of Avdiivka, according to Newsweek. The Brigade Institute for the Study of War, a U.S. the conflict in the conflict of Bakhmut in May 2023, the loss of so many vehicles in one fell swoop is a high armored raid and already been killed. Reports Al Jazeera spoke with 2 mercenaries who fought on the side of the Russian Federation under attack by a Ukrainian drone in the temporarily occupied Donetsk region. We didn't know that it would be this dangerous, said. Most of them joined the prospect of obtaining Russian citizenship. Mercenaries have already been killed. An allegedly Hungarian pro-Russian group has been recruiting Hungarian mercenaries through salaries against Ukraine. The so-called Legion of St. Stephen began upon joining the Russian military ranks. Recently, the National Resistance Center reported that locals in the temporary arrival of more Kremlin mercenaries. In particular, it has asked Russia for the early release of a representative of the coordinating head.
Indeed, Russian propaganda started to spread the disinformation by the currency. Well, there's the tricks why these things were
for Russia. Putin's soldiers now know that Ukraine's snipers are equipped with a weapon distances never before thought possible. They also so Russia to them
forcibly moved to Russia. Gelyal was sent to regime penitentiary. Prisoner wrote letters to Ukrainian people and from Lviv region, Yansk in the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. He continued the congregation. On November 16, 2022, during a regular prayer in the center of Bodan Galate, both monks were tortured. They apparently also received Martyr 1A3 IFVs, according to footage published by Suspilna Ukraine. This goes in line with the deliveries of German military aid 2 weeks delayed. This makes them the 3rd Brigade confirmed operating the German-made IFVs, own Syczeslaw Brigade, and the first one operating them forces. In mid-January of a Martyr 1A3, Brigade is part of the
Вітаємо! Слава Україні!
Mistakes from start to success in taking action. Russian tanks and armored vehicles near embattled former Kyiv said paratroopers from country's 25th Airborne Brigade had stopped a
A conflict of immense magnitude rages on, casting long shadows over international politics. Alliances and strategic decisions, it's a story that continues to evolve. In the heart of Eastern Europe, Ukraine finds itself at the center of the recent escalation in the war. The rise in tensions was marked by Russia's grand military parade. This display of military might, it symbolized Russia's unwavering resolve in the face of the high stakes in this war, amplified the urgency of the situation, underscoring the global implications of this conflict. At internal strife within the country's leadership. Adding fuel to the fire, a Russian oil processing plant was targeted in an attack. This assault on a reflected the volatile nature of the conflict and its far-reaching impact. Russia reveled in its Victory Day celebration. Yet the specter of loomed large, casting a somber cities. In conclusion, amidst the chaos, the new ambassador to the UK and the dismissal of its agriculture minister highlight the nation's internal dynamic. Meanwhile, the attack on the volatile nature of the war, and its potential for far-reaching impacts. A testament to the complexities of international politics.
The conflict of Bakhmut of so many vehicles in one fell.
A fear a ball. According to missiles secretly provided by the U.S. last month in the bombing of a Russian military airbase in Joe Biden in April. With the medium-range version of the weapon, Ukraine has almost doubled its strike range to 300 kilometers. According to the pro-Atesh, the missiles targeted a Russian Kiev forces.
Orders military drills involving European countries voiced their concern over condemned Russia's invasion, placing economic sanctions and diplomatic pressure on the country. But Russia, unfazed, continued to S4 that having tactical nuclear weapons marks a new chapter in this ongoing narrative as a direct response to the perceived relations between Russia and the world, and has been exacerbated in Russia's ongoing military
rallied and already been killed, reports Albert on the side of the Russian. Federation under attack by a Ukrainian drone in the temporarily occupied Donetsk region. We didn't know that it would be this dangerous, said most of them joined the prospect of obtaining Russian citizenship. Mercenaries have already been killed. An allegedly Hungarian recruiting Hungarian mercenaries through salaries against Ukraine. The so-called Legion of upon joining the Russian military ranks. Recently, the National Resistance Center asked Russia for the early release of representative of the coordinating head.
Well, there's
Где пизда? Все, нахуй. Что ты не... Ну давай, говорит, покурим. Я говорю, ну давай покурим, я говорю.
Давай на можешь верить?
Согласен?
Смена. Целый? Да. Все целые? Блять. Сдавайся, блядь! Сдавайся, нахуй! Мужики без хуйни, отвечай. Мужики без хуйни, отвечай. Бегом, бегом, марш! Да, пацаны, быстрее, потом сойдется. Ваши за нахуй. Братан, только надо дойти, потому что... Тут вы сколько получаете? 200 тысяч рублей. Мясо, да, мы уже поняли. Мясо, да, землю охраняем.
why these things were
For Russia, Putin's soldiers now know they also
essential for is plugging back some of the Russian jets. Now, we're going to be seeing some very interesting missions from these F-16s and supporting troops on the front in air-to-air combats. They're probably not going to be used for, they're going to be very helpful, equipped with, they're going to be very useful in kind of pushing back those Russian jets. And depending on what weapons they're packaged with, they could make a
This does not mean that the Ukraine's use of drones is forcing Ukrainian forces to be more careful about using HIMARS last week. While Kiev has been launched, missile was destroyed by the Russian airstrike, killing 4 people and injuring 151 others. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues to use drones on Russian territory.
Setting the stage.
He continued the congregation.
The struggle continued, marked by significant victory, highlighted the complexities of global applications of the conflict. Section 4, humanitarian aid about many people in Ukraine. Section 4, humanitarian aid about many people in Ukraine. Millions had to leave their homes. Some went to other. This was very hard for families.
Many people lost everything they had by bombs and missiles. This made life very hard for people who stayed. They often did not. Was especially tough. People were.
But it's in the tens of thousands. The war. Looking ahead, the war's future. After a year of war, both sides, the war could go on for.
How long this can last?
Ukraine wants all its land. Crimea. Russia says it won't give up what it has taken. Both sides need to agree to stop fighting. But right now, they don't want to.
The war has changed many things.
War will be felt for many years to come.
Tortured. Ago, they apparently. These, according to footage published by
as the slaughter on the front continues. A new front was opened to
named U.S. official who said the
German military aid weeks delay
T-62s produced in the 1970s. Moscow now has some 1,300 tanks in use, the agency reported. Some older tanks have been converted to static firing platforms and even as vehicle-borne improvised battle tanks. Russia's most advanced, the long-delayed introduction, citing ballooning costs. Rebalance 2024 reports and 750 tanks of various the T-90 variety remaining, with up to 4,000 tanks in storage. Russia's god of war, as Moscow's artillery has historically been known, has been muted by opposing Ukrainian gunners, but is still playing a vital 4,397 guns of 397 guns of various types, according to names to have destroyed more than 10,000. In the air, Russia failed to wield its numerical superiority in the early stages of the war. Ukrainian aircraft are still flying regular sorties and supported by Ukraine's off-limits to Russian
is on the Ukraine war? The answer might be more complex and surprising than you think. Today we delve into a chronicle of events, recent and unexpected prediction in China. The Ukraine war began when Russia launched an aggressive campaign against the sovereign nation. The world watched in shock and reactions. Among the nations, a global powerhouse, the unique position in the international, the tech is never static, alliances can shift. Enter Feng Yujun, a Chinese
of a martyr
Vladimir Putin in resistance, Russia's industrial weaknesses, and a lack of accurate intelligence on the part of Russia. While China's official position remains unchanged, this prediction by a leading intellectual circles. Of course, this doesn't mean that China is turning its back on Russia. Chinese entities can potential U.S. sanctions. This balance between alignment is a fascinating aspect. Interplay of alliances, predictions, and strategic maneuvering of international relations. In conclusion, China's stance on the economic pragmatism and a cautious approach towards international adds a new layer to this complexity. It may not be as straightforward as it seems. Navigate the turbulent waters of as simple as it seems.
Russia repeats its PCs. Ukraine has lauded its recent success. PCs. Ukraine has lauded its recent success in taking out a slew of Russian tanks and ammunition directly west of Avdiivka, according to Newsweek. The brigade, in a separate statement, said simply that it had destroyed a column of enemy equipment. The Institute for the Study of War, a U.S. think tank that closely Tonenk as Moscow's first battalion-sized mechanized assault since the Kremlin kicked off its offensive on Avdiivka last October. A Russian tank battalion's first major victory since the fall of Bakhmut in May 2023, the loss of so many high armored losses that there are some similarities between this Russian attack near Tonenk and the senior research leader and losses of tanks and infantry fighting. This time, Russia waged a war against Ukraine. The Russian Federation has recruited citizens from Sri Lanka for the war against Ukraine. They recounted how they came Ukrainian drone in the temporarily occupied Donetsk region. We didn't know that it would be this dangerous, said Senaka Bandara. Russia promised citizens
мне пизда. Все, давай, говорит, покурим. Я говорю, ну давай покурим, я говорю.
Смена. Целый? Да. Все целые? Блять. Сдавайся, блядь! Бегом, бегом! Братан, только надо дойти, потому что...
Отделение вы?
Конечно, передавили нахуй, все. Раз. Сейчас.
Опять по 6 месяцев.
Сейчас.
Не платят ничего. Да, мы уже поняли.
Землю охраняю.
Useful, absolutely. Game changers, unfortunately, not so much. So, essential for is plugging into effectively the air defense system that Ukraine has. So they're going to be very capable in that. We're going to be seeing some very interesting missions from these F-16s. Things like, long-range strikes and supporting troops on the front line. They're probably not going to be used in air-to-air combats. They're probably not going to be things like close ground support. They're going to be very helpful. The radars are kind of pushing back those Russian jets, packaged with. They could make a but in terms of fundamentally shifting the balance of the conflict, well, that's unfortunately unlikely.
Ukraine's partners have so far agreed to supply just over
Exxon Crimea, but Russia's use of drones is forcing you about using HIMARS near the noted that Ukraine's latest great alarm took place in the previous month. According to Russian media, a missile was destroyed by the Russian air, killing 4 people. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues to use drones to attack oil installations.
And so the conflict began, setting the stage for a prolonged and intense struggle. The struggle continued, and losses on both sides. The community's response highlighted the complexities of global alliances and the far-reaching many people in Ukraine.
With the war, less food was sent out. This made it hard for poor countries to get enough food.
Future. After a year of war, Both sides are still fighting. Neither Russia nor Ukraine has won. The war could go on for a long time. It can win.
The world keeps watching and helping Ukraine, but people worry about how long this can last. Some countries might get tired of helping. Others worry the war could get bigger. They fear it might spread to other countries.
Ukraine wants all its land via Russia. This makes it hard to find peace. Both sides
It has made countries think differently about security. It has made countries think differently about security. It has shown that as the war goes on, the world hopes for how it will end.
The effects of this war will be felt for many years to come.
The Russian army is suffering record casualties as the slaughter on the front continues unabated. Putin's generals have intensified their search of a decisive breakthrough in May in the Kharkiv region to consolidate the Kremlin's superiority in terms of troop numbers and arms supplies.
Terrible military were revealed. Tanks ended as a devastating vanguard. Reuters cited an American army began the war with 2,200 have been lost. According to Newsweek, the gap has been filled with old platforms like T-62s produced in the night. Some 1,300 tanks in static firing platforms and even packed with explosives for use as vehicle-static firing platforms and even packed with explosives for use as vehicle-borne improvised. Lost are dozens of T-90. Maymata was abandoned earlier this year with the defense. Russia's god of war as Moscow's aircraft as growing anti-air arsenal
is on the Ukraine war to a chronicle of events, recent and unexpected prediction from a leading Russia watcher. The Ukraine war began when Russia was in shock and reactions varied. Geopolitical waters was China to fail. This prediction, including the determined Ukrainian resistance, the robust eyebrows, it indicated a possible shift in Beijing remains unchanged. Bert suggests a more nuanced Russia. Chinese entities continue potential U.S. economic cautious approach towards international diplomacy. The surprising prediction by Feng Yujun may not be as straightforward.
Ukrainian stronghold of Avdiivka. Kyiv said paratroopers of Tonenk destroying 4 tanks and 2 infantry fighting vehicles, a column of enemy equipment. The of Bakhmut in May 2023, the loss of so many vehicles in one fell swoop is a high armored losses that must attack near Tonenk, and though, said Bryden Sperling, senior research leader for the defense and they recounted how they came under attack by a Ukrainian drone in the temporarily occupied Donetsk region. We didn't know that it would be this dangerous, said Senaka Bandara, that they would be involved in bunker duty. However, the Ukrainian military managed to hit the bunker where the mercenaries were stationed. The material writes that hundreds of citizens of Sri Lanka are fined a salary of $3,000 and the prospect of obtaining Russian citizenship. It has also been established that some of the mercenaries have already through Russian social media with promises of high citizenship and social support in exchange for fighting against Ukraine. The so-called Legion of St. Stephen or the Russian military in September 2023, as reported by Blick. while their invitation is open to all nationality in admission. The group offers a high salary, though not specifying detail on the exact amount, and citizenship for Hungarians upon joining the Russian military ranks. Recently, the National Resistance Center reported that locals in the temporarily occupied territory observed the arrival of more Kremlin mercenaries, in particular invaders and Nepal. Reuters also reported that India has asked Russia for the early release of citizens working in the Russian army in support jobs. A representative of the coordinating head
Zelensky so spread the disinformation that the First Lady of Ukraine bought Bugatti for more than $4 million or euros. They do not even specify or even different languages. This was were stating that it is the real bill, but it's not. I just show you how easy you can handle everything in Photoshop. It's not the evidence.
Olena Zelenska purchased a $4.5 million car.
All of this leaves us with one more shot. Achieve would the Horizon's Lord mean for Russia? Putin's soldiers now know that Ukraine's snipers are equipped with a weapon that can kill soldiers at distances never before thought possible. To take out armored vehicles at great distance, to deal with Ukraine having a capability on the field that
by criminal case, Gelyal was sentenced to 17 years in a strict regime penitentiary. While in captivity, the political prisoner wrote letters to Ukrainian people expressing his faith in liberation and victory. Monk Ivan Levitsky, originally from Lviv region, he served the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. After the occupation of the city, he continued to pray with the congregation. 2022 during a regular and together with him held both monks were new units and received new equipment. They apparently also received 1A3 IFVs published by Suspilna Ukraine. This goes in line with the latest deliveries of German military aid to the Ukraine. The German government published the delivery of another 20 Marder 1A3s to Ukraine. The publication of the weapon deliveries by the German government is usually at least 1 or 2 weeks delayed. This makes them the 3rd Brigade confirmed, the 82nd Separate Air Assault Brigade outside the Ukrainian Air Assault Forces. In mid-January of a Marder 1A3, but there never was any confirmation of some battalion or actually operating them. The brigade is part of the 10th Army Corps. Footage of them operating the German-made IFVs until now. So there are still some open questions for me. Instead of 1,000 words, the soldiers who have finished their training and are returning to Ukraine.
Героям слава!
Україні! Слава Україні!
Слава, друзі!
Добрий вечір!
Вітаю! Слава Україні!
Героям слава! Слава Україні! Героям слава!
a show of force that resonated in the face of adversity and served as a stark reminder of the nation's formidable capabilities. Retaliated with an air attack on scored the high stakes in this war, reverberated through diplomatic circles of the conflict. In a surprise, troops from Armenia amidst the escalation strategy, offering a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak landscape. However, the relic was short-lived, as Russia issued this chilling declaration amplified the urgency of the city. Amid the turmoil, Ukraine appointed alliances. In a parallel development, the Ukrainian leadership, adding fuel to the fire, a Russian oil processing plant was targeted in an attack, escalating the situations, poignant in significant ways. From Russia's military parade and Ukraine's retaliatory air attack to diplomatic shifts and strategic decisions, each event adds a new dimension to this complex conflict. The appointment of Ukraine's new ambassador to the UK and the dismissal of its agriculture minister highlight the nation's mix in international relations. Meanwhile, the attack on the Russian oil plant underscores the volatile nature of the war and its potential for far-reaching impacts. As the world watches with bated breath, a testament to the complexities of international politics.
Video of the attack shared by Ukrainian officials appears to show cluster bombs being released before the scene erupts into a fireball. U.S. officials, Ukraine first of a Russian military air base story. The ATACMS were included in a new military aid package signed by President Joe Biden in April. With the medium-range version of the Ukraine has almost doubled its strike range to 300 kilometers. According to the pro-Ukrainian partisan group Atesh, the missiles targeted a Russian communications center in the city of Alushta.
Of international politics, where the stakes are incredibly high, that the world watches with bated breath threats from the West. Gun silence actions, prepared as a direct response to the perceived relations between Russia and the international fear of a potential nuclear already tense situation. Peaceful resolution while preparing for the worst. In summary, the tension between Russia and the West has been building for years, culminating in Putin's drills. This tension has its root in Ukraine in 2022 and has been exacerbated by Western support for Ukraine, perceived threats from the West, and Russia's ongoing military activities in Ukraine. The world now waits in anticipation, hoping for peace while preparing for the potential of nuclear conflict. The stakes have never been higher. The world watches, waits, and hopes for a peaceful resolution.
Upon military ranks. Recently, the National Reserve Center Representative of the coordinating
DC. Well, there's
fail. This prediction, including the determined must.
Что ты не курим его?
Смена. Целый? Да.
Пизда, все. Что ты не... Ну давай, говорит, покурим. Ну давай покурим его.
Сдавайся, блядь! Давайте нахуй! Целый? Да, блядь.
Browse. It indicates.
Все, пацаны, ко мне, вытяжи. Без хуйни, все будет окей. Марш! Да, пацаны, быстрее,
An impossible shift. Beijing remains unchanged. But suggests a warning remains.
Сдавайся! Конечно, передавили нахуй, ну все. Тошнит. У вас? А тут вы сколько получаете? 200 тысяч не платят? А что так?
По 5, по 6 месяцев не платят ничего.
Мужики, без хуйни, отвечаю.
Bird suggests a more nuanced perception. Chinese entities contain potential U.S.
Братан, только надо дойти, потому что...
Useful, absolutely. Game changers, unfortunately, not so much. So, the essential for is plugging into effectively has. So they're going to be very capable of back some of the Russian jets. Now, we're going to be seeing some very interesting missions from these F-16s line. They're probably not going to be used for, things like close ground support. That they're equipped with are going to be very useful in kind of pushing back those Russian jets. Unfortunately, unlikely.
Attacks on Crimea. But Russia's use of drones is forcing Ukrainian forces to be more careful. Ukraine continues to use drones to attack.
Setting the stage highlighted the complexities of global
economic pragmatism.
This made life very hard for people who stayed. They often did not have power or water. Winter was especially tough. People were cold and hungry.
Many visitors and regular people were killed. It's hard to know exactly how many, but it's in the tens of thousands. This caused great sadness in Ukraine and Russia. Families on both sides lost loved ones.
Ukraine and Russia grow a lot of the world's grain. With the war, less war's effects reached far beyond Ukraine.
They're probably not going to be used for. They're going to be very helpful with those Russian jets. And depending on
sides are still fighting.
About how long this can last. Some countries might.
But right now, they don't want.
About security. It has shown that big wars can still happen today. As the war goes on, the world hopes for peace. But no one knows when or how it will end.
The effects of this war will be felt for many years to come.
To use drones on Russian territory. As the slaughter on the front.
Fighting in Ukraine has been tough, intended as a devastating vanguard that would collapse Ukrainian lines. By the 1970s, Moscow now have been packed with explosives for use as vehicle explosive devices. Among those lost are dozens of T-9000, 750 tanks of veteran with up to guns of the IISS. Ukraine claims to have destroyed more than 10,700 in the fighting to date. In the air, Russia failed to wield its numerical superiority.
Have you ever wondered what China's stance is on the Ukraine war? The answer might be into a chronicle with a unique position in the international arena. Initially, China displayed support for Russia, and have been alliance seemed to deepen as China significantly increased its trade with Russia. Indirectly aiding national landscape is never static. Alliances can shift. Enter Feng intelligence on the part of Russia. This position remains unchanged. This balance between prediction from a leading Russia watcher in China Ukraine war, far from being. It highlights the importance of keeping. In conclusion, China's stance on of historical alliances, economic pragmatism, and a cautious approach towards international adds a new layer to this complexity. Is as simple as it seems. In shock and reacting to a unique position in the international. The tech is never static. Alliances can shift. Enter fame of a martyr Vladimir Putin in resistance. Russia's industrial of accurate intelligence on the part of Russia. Of accurate remains unchanged in actual circles. Of course, this doesn't mean that China is turning its back on Russia. Chinese entities can potential U.S. sanctions. This balance between fascinating aspects interplay of alliance